I told you that in your specific professional field, failing like 95% of the time doesn't make you a disaster. It actually means you're operating at the absolute peak of human intelligence and capability.
Yeah, which is kind of a wild thought, right?
Totally wild. But today, we are dissecting this incredibly revealing stack of sources, all centered around an academic writer's survival guide. We're going to look at the science, the philosophy, and, well, the practical roadmap for handling one of the most universally dreaded experiences in the workplace, which is manuscript rejection.
I mean, it's such a profound topic because your physiological response to the word no is identical whether you're an entry-level freelancer or a tenured professor.
Right.
We're talking about that sinking, stomach-dropping feeling when you open an email from an editor or a boss and see those dreaded opening words, "We regret to inform you."
Oh, the worst. Well, welcome to this deep dive. We are on a mission for you today. Whether you are, pitching a creative campaign, submitting a report at work, or just grinding away in the hyper-competitive world of academic publishing, you are going to face the no.
Yeah, it's inevitable.
It really is. So our goal today is to completely decode the psychology of why that rejection hurts so badly, look at the shocking statistics behind who actually gets rejected, and then walk you through a concrete action plan.
Absolutely. By the end of this conversation, you will be equipped to take a rejection letter and entirely strip it of its power over your career.
Yes. But to do that, we have to dismantle the fundamental misconception that getting rejected means your work is inherently bad.
Okay, let's unpack this.
hmm
Because before we talk about handling a rejection, we really have to look at the sheer volume of it.
I want to throw out a different way to think about this. Let's think about a baseball batting average.
Okay, baseball. I'm listening.
Great. So in baseball, if you go up to the plate and you fail to get a hit 70% of the time, meaning you only succeed 30% of the time, you are literally a Hall of Famer.
Wow. Yeah.
Right. In that sport, failing the vast majority of the time isn't incompetence. It's literally elite performance. And the data in our sources suggests that professional and academic publishing operates on that exact same wavelength.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it proves that professional rejection is fundamentally a strategic numbers game. It's dictated by system capacity, not a pure meritocracy.
Right.
I mean, the baseline rejection rates for top-tier academic and medical journals sit between 80 and 85%.
That is just huge.
And it gets worse. For the most prestigious legacy publications, that rejection rate skyrockets to 90 or even 95%.
So you're almost guaranteed to get rejected.
Basically, yeah. And when we look at the life cycle of the articles that actually do make it through, the statistics are staggering. Roughly 62% of all successfully published peer-reviewed papers were rejected at least once by another journal before they finally found a home.
Wait, 62%. So the vast majority of successful paradigm-shifting work floating around in the world today started with someone saying, no thanks.
Yeah, it's literally the water these professionals swim in. And the sources point out this applies heavily to mainstream media and freelance journalism as well.
Oh, sure.
Like, take Amelia Tate. She's an incredibly talented journalist, named to the Forbes 30 Under 30 list. She openly discusses how she is rejected or completely ignored by editors way more often than she is ever commissioned for a piece.
And that was Donna Ferguson, too, right?
Yeah, Donna Ferguson, an award-winning national broadsheet writer, she stresses the exact same reality. They don't have some magic touch that prevents rejection. They just produce so much output that the acceptances eventually break through the wall of no's.
That is so encouraging, honestly. And it's not just an internet-era phenomenon either. I was reading through the historical examples in the source material, and the one that blew my mind was Hans Krebs.
Oh, the Krebs cycle.
Yes. Hans Krebs is responsible for discovering the citric acid cycle back in 1937. That is foundational biochemistry. He completely mapped out how human cells generate energy. To think a discovery of that magnitude faced gatekeeping is it's incredible.
Well, it faced the ultimate gatekeeping. Krebs submitted his groundbreaking research to the prestigious journal Nature, and the editor-in-chief sent it back with a desk rejection, citing a lack of space.
Lack of space. Wow.
Yeah, and to make matters worse, they included a note claiming they deemed his work insufficiently interesting to warrant bumping another paper.
Insufficiently interesting. That has to be one of the most spectacularly wrong evaluations in scientific history.
I mean, it certainly aged poorly. Krebs, knowing the value of his own data, just took the paper and published it somewhere else. And in 1953, that exact discovery won him the Nobel Prize in medicine.
That is the ultimate revenge, honestly.
It really is. And he is an excellent company. Over 20 Nobel laureates, had their landmark, world-changing articles initially rejected by journal gatekeepers.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though. That 95% rejection rate isn't just a fun piece of trivia. It completely changes how we should react to the word no.
Oh, absolutely.
If the math so clearly proves that rejection is overwhelmingly normal, and if even Nobel laureates are getting rejected, why does it still feel like a devastating personal attack when you get that email?
It really comes down to the way our brains process intellectual output. Writing or any form of deep knowledge work is deeply personal.
Right. You aren't just making a widget.
Exactly. You aren't submitting a standardized widget on an assembly line. You are submitting your curiosity, your time, and like a piece of your own mind.
Mm.
The psychologist Vanessa Moore defines this kind of professional rejection not just as a disappointment, but as a narcissistic injury.
Narcissistic injury. That implies a literal trauma.
It is. It's a localized psychological wound to your sense of self. The mind conflates, this manuscript doesn't fit our publication, with the much more dangerous thought, I am a fraud.
Oh, wow. That escalation happens so fast.
It does. Experiencing that injury triggers a cascade of intense cognitive distortions. People report feelings of profound shame, humiliation, lowered self-esteem, and even rage directed at the reviewers.
Right, and our sources highlight that for students and early career professionals, this emotional burden almost instantly twists into severe imposter syndrome.
Oh, definitely.
They get one rejection and immediately think, the admissions committee made a mistake letting me into this program. They finally figured out I don't belong here.
Which causes brilliant people to quietly self-select out of their industries. They just stop submitting. To survive this emotional toll, you have to fundamentally separate your personal self-worth from the work you produced on a given Tuesday.
Yeah, you really have to understand capacity. There is a brilliant analogy in the source material for this that clarifies the mechanism perfectly. It's the watermelon analogy.
Oh, I love this one.
Right. So imagine you go to a local grocery store and there is a massive display bin filled with hundreds of watermelons. You thump a few of them, you check the size, and you pick one perfect watermelon to put in your shopping cart.
Makes sense.
Now, by picking that one watermelon, are you making a definitive declaration that all the other watermelons in the bin are rotting, defective, or useless?
No, not at all.
Exactly. No, you just have a very specific amount of space in your shopping cart, and you needed one specific melon for a barbecue you're hosting.
And editors are essentially those stressed grocery shoppers. They're dealing with an overwhelming volume of submissions and incredibly narrow inventory space.
Their shopping cart is just tiny.
Right. It's just a few pages in a quarterly journal or a few slots on a digital publication schedule. The golden rule you must internalize is that rejections happen to papers, not to authors.
Rejections happen to papers, not authors. That's good.
The feedback is a momentary judgment on what you wrote, specifically evaluating how it fits their immediate needs. It is never a judgment on what you know, your overarching talent, or your value as a researcher.
All right, let's put you in the hot seat for a second. Let's say you just got that email. If you can manage to untangle your ego from your work, you can finally look objectively at the mechanics of the no.
Okay, yeah.
I always assumed editors rejected pieces because they just fundamentally disagreed with the premise or didn't like the author's writing style. But looking at the sources, it sounds like the reality behind the editor's desk is much more mechanical.
It's highly mechanical, and it basically happens in two distinct stages.
Okay, what's stage one?
The first stage is what the industry calls a desk rejection. This happens fast, usually within a few days of your submission. It is executed by the editor-in-chief before the piece is ever sent out to peer reviewers.
So they just kill it immediately. Why?
The primary motivation here is triage. They are fiercely protecting their reviewers' limited time.
So what triggers that?
Well, the most common reason is journal scope misalignment.
Meaning what, exactly?
It's a structural failure, where your research topic simply doesn't fit the specific mission of that publication. You essentially tried to sell them an apple when their charter explicitly states they only publish research about oranges.
Ah.
The writing might be brilliant, but it's just the wrong store.
That makes total sense.
Oh.
But the sources also point out operational failures like severe language gaps or failing to follow formatting instructions, meaning you messed up the word count, you used the wrong citation style, or your margins were off.
Right, basic formatting.
Let me push back on that for a second. Are you saying a researcher could spend 5 years in a lab running trials, discover something genuinely groundbreaking, and get entirely shut down just because they used a 12-point font instead of a 10-point font?
This raises an important question about how gatekeepers evaluate trust from a distance. To an editor-in-chief, adherence to formatting guidelines is a direct proxy for your overall scientific rigor.
Really? A proxy for rigor.
Yeah. Put yourself in their shoes. If an editor sees that an author couldn't be bothered to read and follow the journal's basic, publicly available instructions for word limits, their immediate subconscious thought is one of suspicion.
They think you're sloppy.
Exactly. They think, if this team was this sloppy with the submission guidelines, how sloppy were they in the laboratory? Did they cut corners on their ethical protocols? Are their data actually reliable? Attention to detail in the presentation validates the rigor of the research.
Wow. It's not just bureaucratic box checking at all. It's a test of professional trust. If you can't handle the font size, they aren't going to trust you with the science.
Precisely. Now, if you do pass that initial trust test, you move to the second stage, rejection after peer review.
Okay, the gauntlet.
Right. This is where anonymous experts in your specific niche analyze the paper deeply. If you get rejected here, the reasons are usually substantive. They might find poor study design, flawed methodology, or weak conclusions that aren't actually supported by your data.
The sources also highlight lack of novelty as a major trigger for peer review rejection. I want to emphasize why that matters.
Yeah, that's a big one.
When a reviewer cites a lack of novelty, they aren't saying your science is wrong. They are saying you've successfully proven that gravity exists again.
Yeah, we already know that.
Exactly. You haven't added anything new to the conversation, which means you don't justify taking up space in their limited shopping cart.
And of course, any ethical violations discovered during review, like missing consent forms, will trigger an immediate, non-negotiable rejection.
Right, naturally. So we know the numbers, we know the psychology, and we know what the editors are looking for. Now we need the action plan.
A roadmap.
Right, because when you get that rejection email, the natural human instinct is to either throw the entire 6-month project in the trash or, fire off an aggressive email explaining why the reviewer is an idiot.
Which you should never do.
Never. So our sources provide a 5-step resilient roadmap to resubmission that prevents both of those disasters.
Yeah, and the very first phase of that roadmap is emotional quarantine. Keep calm and set the manuscript aside.
Don't touch the keyboard.
Do not reply. Close your laptop, go for a run, eat your favorite meal, and let that initial grief-like reaction just wash over you. Your amygdala is firing. You're experiencing that narcissistic injury we talked about.
The trauma.
Right. It might take a few days for your nervous system to settle. Do not attempt to read the granular feedback while you are emotionally compromised.
Because if you read the feedback while you're defensive, your brain's negativity bias will make you think the reviewer is out to destroy your career.
Oh, absolutely. Every comment feels like a personal attack.
So once the emotional dust settles, you face a new problem that email is full of critiques. You have to strip away the reviewer's tone and mine it for actual data, which brings us to the second phase, extracting the signal from the noise.
This step is so crucial.
You create a blank document and manually copy over the reviewer's comments, but you actively delete any unconstructive, snarky, or overly emotional language they might have used. You leave only the actionable scientific critiques.
You are basically filtering out their bad day to find the blueprint for your improved paper. And this is also the exact moment when you should seek out mentors. Bring in a senior colleague who isn't emotionally attached to the work to help you read between the lines.
So what does this all mean in practice? I like to think of this extraction phase as a digital detox for your brain.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, by literally deleting the reviewer's harsh tone from the page, you silence the troll voice. You're taking away their power to distract you from the goldmine of data you need to fix your work. You are just keeping the pure, objective instructions.
And once you have that pure, detoxed list of critiques, you move to the third phase, building an action item grid. This takes the overwhelming wall of text and turns it into a systematic spreadsheet.
Just a simple grid.
Right. You group the comments by theme. Maybe all the methodology critiques go in one column and all the literature review critiques go in another. For every single comment, you have to make a definitive decision. Are you going to incorporate this feedback or are you going to ignore it?
And if you choose to ignore it, you can't just skip it because the note annoyed you, right? I assume you have to back that up.
Oh, yeah. You must write down a rigorous scientific justification for why the reviewer was mistaken or why their suggestion falls outside the scope of your study. Next to that decision, you write down your exact action step.
So you're planning out, I will change this specific sentence.
Exactly. What specific sentence, paragraph, or chart will you change? This completely removes the emotion from the revision process.
Which naturally leads to the revision phase itself. And the sources have a massive flashing warning label on this step. They state that you must never take a rejected paper and immediately resubmit it, as is, out of spite, to a different journal.
It is the single biggest tactical mistake an author can make.
Really? The biggest?
Oh, without a doubt. Academic disciplines, and really any highly specialized professional niches, are surprisingly small communities. If you resubmit an unedited rejected paper to a new journal, there is a very high statistical probability that the new editor-in-chief will send it out for review and it will land on the desk of the exact same anonymous peer reviewer who rejected it the first time.
Oh, man. That is a nightmare scenario. They will recognize the paper immediately.
It happens constantly, and nothing will infuriate a reviewer more than realizing you completely ignored the highly specialized feedback they spent their weekend writing for you for free. It guarantees a swift, brutal second rejection.
Yeah, that makes sense.
What's fascinating here is the data on how much this feedback actually helps. 91% of authors report that their work genuinely improved through the peer review process.
91%.
Right. You have to reframe peer reviewers in your mind. They are not gatekeepers trying to keep you out of the club. They are free, highly educated consultants working to make your ideas bulletproof before they reach the public.
That's such a great reframe. All right, so you've quarantined your emotions, you've detoxed the feedback, you've built your grid, and you've utilized your free consultants to revise the work. The final phase is repositioning strategically.
Yes, phase 5.
If the paper was rejected because of a scope mismatch, go find a better aligned journal. But if the format just isn't working, you completely repackage the idea.
Exactly. Don't force a square peg into a round hole.
Right. If a 5,000-word research paper is too dense, maybe the core finding is actually a brilliant short commentary, a punchy case report, or a thought-provoking op-ed. You don't let the idea die, you just change the vehicle it travels in.
You adapt to the market.
Right.
But, recovering from one rejection is just a short-term victory. If you want to survive a 30 or 40-year career in any competitive field, you cannot afford to be emotionally derailed by this process every single time you submit something.
Oh, that sounds exhausting.
It is. The sources make it clear that long-term survival requires desensitization. You have to change your relationship with volume.
Okay, but how do we actually do that? How do you numb yourself to the word no?
It requires a fundamental mindset shift. You have to move from a mentality of avoiding rejection to a mentality of actively seeking volume. The source material references this incredible experiment by an entrepreneur named Jia Jiang.
Oh, I've heard of him, the rejection guy.
Yes. He realized his fear of rejection was holding his career back, so he designed a project called the 100 Days of Rejection. He deliberately went out every single day and made absurd requests of strangers, fully expecting them to say no.
Like asking a fast food worker for a donut refill.
Exactly. Or asking to borrow $100 from a stranger. By repeatedly exposing himself to the absolute worst-case scenario, he completely desensitized his ego. The word no lost its sting.
That is so bold.
Really is. And the exact same principle applies to your professional pipeline. If you want a long, resilient career, you need so much volume that a single rejection doesn't register as a crisis. For junior scholars and professionals, the sources recommend adopting what they call the Rule of Threes pipeline.
The rule of threes. Walk us through how that practically looks in a writer's day-to-day life.
It means you should systematically strive to have 3 distinct things happening simultaneously at all times. Number
Yeah.
1, you have one piece of work currently out in the world, sitting on an editor's desk or undergoing peer review.
Okay, that's one.
Number 2, you have one project actively in progress, where you are out in the field, gathering data, conducting research, or outlining. And number 3, you have one manuscript that you're actively composing and writing at your desk.
I love that framework. It's essentially the intellectual equivalent of a diversified investment portfolio.
Oh, that's a perfect comparison.
Right. In the financial world, if you take your entire life savings and put it into one single volatile tech stock and that stock crashes, you are bankrupt.
You lose everything.
Exactly. In the writing world, if you put all your emotional chips on one single roulette spin, like one paper that took you a year to write and it gets rejected, it bankrupts your confidence. You're ruined.
Yeah, the devastation is total.
But if you follow the rule of threes, you are diversified. One no on paper number one is just a slight dip in an otherwise growing market. You don't even have the luxury of time to sit around and be devastated because you have to get back to writing paper number three.
Exactly. Pitch volume strips a single no of its power. When you have a robust, churning pipeline, a rejection letter stops being a personal roadblock and simply becomes a useful piece of data that helps you steer your overarching career forward.
This has been such a powerful perspective shift. Let's recap the journey we've just been on. First, you have to accept that rejection is the statistical baseline. Remember the baseball analogy. Failing 70 to 95% of the time is completely normal at the top.
Yep, the baseline.
Second, you must separate your self-worth from the editor's desk. Remember the watermelon analogy, they are rejecting the papers fit for their specific shopping cart, not your value as a human being.
Crucial point.
Third, you execute the resilient roadmap. Quarantine your emotions, extract the signal from the noise, build an action item grid, rigorously revise utilizing your free consultants, and reposition strategically. And finally, you build an unstoppable, diversified pipeline, the rule of threes, to completely desensitize your ego to the word no.
It is a phenomenal blueprint for longevity. And, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over as you step back into your own work.
All right, what do you have for us?
We talked about seeking volume, diversifying your pipeline, and Jia Zhang's experiment. What if you took that a step further in your own life? What if you started keeping a rejection resume?
A rejection resume, like a shadow CV.
A literal, physical document where you meticulously track every single time you are told no. You log the journal, the date, the project, and the reason. But you don't look at it as a list of failures. You look at it as a badge of honor.
Oh, I like that.
Because if your rejection resume is completely empty, it doesn't mean your work is flawless. It might just mean you are playing it entirely too safe.
Wow.
It means you aren't aiming high enough, you aren't risking enough, and you aren't dreaming big enough to challenge the gatekeepers.
Yeah.
Let a long, robust rejection resume be the undeniable proof of your ambition.
A rejection resume as proof of ambition. I think that is the perfect note to end on. So the next time you're sitting at your desk and that new email pops up and your stomach starts to drop as you read the words, "We regret to inform you," just take a breath.
Yeah, take a breath.
Remember that you are in Nobel caliber company. It is just another line on your rejection resume, and it is just one more necessary step closer to your next yes. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive today. We invite you to keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep putting your boldest ideas out into the world.